Climate change has led to heavy rainfall and storms, increasing the frequency of floods. The impacts are greatest in urban areas with large populations, density, and complex socio-economic activities. The site of Seoul, South Korea is a pertinent one, as it is one of the most highly urbanized cities in Korea and can set a precedent for other cities facing urban flooding. The percentage of impervious areas in the city of Seoul has increased from 40% in 1962 to 48% in 2010. Over 90% of the impervious land cover is impenetrable to rainwater infiltration. Flooding in cities like this would result in significant losses, costs, and restoration time. There are so many losses already, and there will be many more. Renewed generative flourishing cannot grow from myths of immortality or failure to become with the dead and the extinct. Haraway. On August 8, 2022, large-scale floods hit the capital of South Korea, Seoul, in the Gangnam district and surrounding areas. It was preceded by the highest rainfall in 80 years. 2,800 buildings were damaged and at least 9 people were killed. Several subway stations were flooded, and traffic was suspended on a number of train and subway lines. It became necessary to review the country's disaster management system, since extreme weather is expected to become increasingly common due to the climate crisis. Flood control policies pushed the city to repair and improve its flood prevention facilities, including river embankments, rainwater pumping stations, and sewage facilities. The existing sewer pipes in Seoul were designed for 10 years usage. To upgrade the capacity lifespan in the vulnerable areas to 30 years, Seoul is working to upgrade the design standards for the sewage and pumping stations while installing rainwater reservoirs and other facilities to reduce the stormwater runoff. Waterfront redevelopment has become one of the major ways to reshape industrial cities into metropolises fitting the world's post-industrial societies. In 2008, the Seoul city government published an ambitious report titled The Han Renaissance, in which new ideas for the directions of the Han River's development were laid out. In the prologue, the report notes how Han, or the Han River, had much potential to be taken advantage of, yet several problems, such as the construction of high embankments and highways, along with high-rise apartments, have reduced the Han to a river without character that is far removed from the daily lives of Seoul's residents. With restoration and creation as its keywords, the report emphasized that the goal was to redesign the waterfront of Han River to make it a centerpiece that can strengthen urban competitiveness. The urban history of the Han River and its environs shows development there as taking a different approach, focused on the prevention of flooding and the construction of scenic arterial roads offering a view of the river to vehicular traffic. Thus, the imagination of waterfront redevelopment as either offering a globally available space for a lifestyle of leisure and consumption or promising a restoration of its ecological functions misses the peculiarities of the Han River's position in the urban history of Seoul. The city of Seoul announced it will spend more than $1 billion to build massive underground holding tanks to prevent flooding and vowed to prohibit people from living in basement apartments. They will move some of the city's poorest families out of underground and semi-subterranean homes, also known as Bajahai homes, after 13 people were killed in August, sparking public horror and calls for government accountability. The deaths, which included a family who drowned after becoming trapped underground, have spurred the South Korean capital to put an end to people living in Bajahai homes and improve the quality of living. The frequency and intensity of floods in Seoul have called for governmental and city policies to protect its people and infrastructure. This requires a serious examination of city planning and flood mitigation currently in practice. Therefore, we propose a speculative bridge design in Seoul, South Korea, where the city is prone to disastrous flooding and in the process of re-examining its city planning and infrastructural policies. There is an opportunity to explore ways of further restoration for the city. Our speculative design would take into account the necessity for flooding prevention, construction of scenic roads with views of the river, while simultaneously restoring ecological function at the waterfront. It is also important to honor not only the Han River's significant historical role for the city, but also its potentially healing and restorative one. Our task is to make trouble, to stir up potent responses to devastating events, as well as to settle troubled waters and rebuild quiet places. Haraway.